Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very normal, usual week in FPL. It kind of feels that way in recent times. We're going to be talking today about Walkergate and the idea of leaks and insider info and content creators and sort of responsibilities and ethical points that we've put together. A chip plan update. Has anything come across that we're going to be changing or has caught our eye? Because we now have the fifth round draw. Then we're going to move on to the matches. We're going to look at Brighton Palace, specifically the dream duo of Etse and Elise. Then we'll be looking at Brentford and Man City. You know, they've both got a double coming up as well. So it's important to look at them and looking at specific players like Tony, KDB, and of course Haaland. And then looking at Arsenal against Liverpool, top of the table-ish clash. Players that we're looking at for those ones. And the match itself, finishing off with captaincy and Q&A. Before we get into that, I don't know. I think I felt the same as Tien, like a little bit disillusioned with FPL. Maybe it's that our time zones being so strange for us. Deadlines at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, midweek ones, staggering game weeks, issues with the FPL sort of community and thing itself. Feels a little bit of a sour taste, and that's not the salsa and guacamole that I've dinner. But I am joined today by the usual FPL IQ people of Ryan, FPL Chatbox, FPL Planner Tien, and teacher FPL Lucian. So we'll go around, see how everyone's feeling. I'll start with fellow disillusioned person Tien. Tien, how are you feeling this week?
Oh, I've got my beer ready, so yeah, now I'm feeling a little bit better. But yeah, as you said, it's been a bit yeah, it's hard to describe it. It's like the motivation has dropped somewhat, with what has been going on this week, and it's not just the the issue with the Walkergate, but the price changes and all the sort of it's crediting goals and assists randomly from the fantasy Premier League. So it just all seem to be a bit I don't know, disengaged. But I'm ready to come back on. So yeah, good to be here to chat.
Really doesn't help as well when your FPL team isn't doing well. Like I've got 10 players because Bernardo didn't get any minutes. I've got 1 goal and 1 assist in my entire squad. So that doesn't make it anything better. And fellow Bernardo Silva sufferer, Ryan, how are you feeling, bud?
Well, I need a miracle tomorrow. For it to even recover from this game week, it's looking like a big red. Yeah, Bernardo Silva. As soon as I saw him on the bench, I was like, yeah, he's not coming on. He's one of those players that if he's on the bench, he's most likely not going to come on. And I have like Ursula coming on for a 1-pointer with Trippier sitting on second bench there, just with his 7-pointer. I'm like, yeah, it is what it is. I feel like my entire defense backline has just been a disappointment this week. So
Every
along with the
week.
Bernardo bench, yeah, I know Bernardo benching. Trent also got benched. I was like, oh no, couldn't get any worse. So yeah, it is what it is. We move.
I do think Tien's got the worst backline of 0 points total from
Oh,
your. Is it
oh my
0?
no, one. It's
1.
one. So
Positive
one.
1.
So one. Yeah. So one. I got one, and -1. So a net of 1 point.
So
Oh
speaking
dear.
of losing points for his horrible transfers out this game week of, was it Alvarez out and who else was out, Lucian?
Saka.
Saka and Alvarez out for Haaland and KDB. I'm not even going to figure out what the points are, but just bad all round. Lucian, how you doing? Feeling chipper, regardless of it?
I've learned that 24 hours before deadline, I need to teach my wife how to change my password so that she can change it back after the deadline and give it back to me. Or something like maybe I'll give it to one of you. Yeah, the worst
Take a
mistakes
phone
I've
away,
made.
right?
Yeah, I know, I should have. I really should have. Because the plan was to just save a free, not like Saka and Alvarez were minute risks anyway. Would have just rolled the free. So anyway, the beer helps.
It's incredible that we all have different teams, but we're all having a nightmare of a game week, and it's same with our captaincy as well. Like, fortunately, one of my returns was Foden, getting the assist, but it's so strange that we're so different and have different players and different styles, but we're all struggling this game week. But it happens. So let's move on to
We moved.
and we move. Let's move on then to something that obviously has been important in the week, and of course it is Walkergate. So for those that don't know what it is, basically people, of course, were looking at late hopeful, because it's the day before, right? Late hopeful Manchester City team news. Specifically, I feel it was more about looking for if Haaland was going to start or not. And then people started to notice that Al Walker, who has played 90 minutes except once this, where I think it was Sheffield United, he got brought off after like 60 something minutes, but he's been the most nailed on Man City player. Played 90 minutes as like 67 minutes in game week 20 every match, and he's at home against Burnley. And suddenly we had content creators benching him, and the funny thing is, it felt like a lot of these were analytical managers, ones who really use models and points predictions and algorithms and all of this. And there's no way any model or algorithm or anyone from Grass FC, people who use eye tests, who would be benching any Man City player at home to Burnley. And it just came about that we had two scenarios. One, they were benching Kyle Walker. They had him anyway, and they were benching him, which was good. But what was weirder as well is some people were bringing in Walker and then benching him as well. Like, and we're not talking like a 4 million bench, but I've got a transfer to burn, so I'm just gonna do it. The one free transfer, and you're bringing in a 5.5 million defender at home to Burnley to bench him. Strange. So people were thinking, well, we've not had our usual Twitter leakers, and they're not saying anything, but they're still releasing content that's saying, here to help you. Here's my advice. You should bring this guy in. You should sell this guy, and all the regular content that you see. Yet said nothing about this whatsoever. And then the deadline passes, and of course Walker has found out he's been benched. So we're going to give our initial thoughts and feelings about that, and then Tien's puts 3 questions down about what this could mean for the community, or what we can expect regular managers and content creators to, what we can maybe expect from them or hope from them, what we can do about it, and just some minor annoyances or just the ethics a little bit behind FPL. Just the initial feeling for me was actually I wasn't bothered about it. If you tell people I've got the news and you don't tell anyone, or you'd say I've got the news but he's told me not to share it, I wouldn't have been as bothered, because I don't get it. Like, we're here to help. We give our advice, we give our suggestions, but we all want to win. I want to win FPL. I want to be the first one, or I want to do a good job. Let's say I know the kitman's dog Walker, who heard it from the second chef from the kitchen that Walker wasn't going to play, and I get that message, but they say, look, don't tell anyone. I won't, because a friend or someone has told me. But the thing that I don't get is the hypocrisy. People who charge or earn money from FPL, who say this is their advice, and they say, oh, I'm here for the community, I'm here to share all my thoughts and feelings and experiences from you, and I'm here for the community and the people and for my viewers, I love you so much, and then obviously just do it on the sly and not tell anyone about it. It's the hypocrisy I don't like. If you get the information, you say I can't tell you, then that's fine. But the fact that these people on the front, it's all about, I'm here for you, I get all the information, I'm there for you. But then on the sly, like an hour before deadline, I'm not going to say anything. That's the thing that doesn't sit too right for me in terms of Walkergate. Just like, it just feels fake. if they came out and just publicly said, "Look, I've got the information. I'm going to make it for my team. I can't tell you. I'm sorry." People have got to accept it. But if you just pretend or keep it secret, and people, if you're earning money or charging people to get FPL advice, and you withhold actual genuine advice that would make a huge difference for your FPL, that's the thing. It's a huge, like, we can all say, "Oh, bring this player in because we've seen this stat and this XG thing," but the most important advice that you can give someone is telling them if their player is going to start or not. That is the most valuable piece of advice someone can give. If I was to tell you right now, I know Haaland will start the next match, that would be the most valuable advice that anyone would get, or information anyone would get this game week. Or, alternatively, Haaland was rushed back too soon, he's not going to play the next game. That would be huge advice, and it's the biggest piece anyone can get. And the fact that they earn money or charge for that, and they're withholding, supposedly helping you and things like that, that's the thing that doesn't. So it's more about the hypocrisy. Ryan, what were your sort of thoughts or feelings that you came across?
So I was online doing my deadline stream during this time. So me usually when I do streams, if I see a leak, I share it with anyone who's in the chat immediately. Anything that I find on Twitter, because at the end of the day, people are coming to watch. One, to get information, and also to, like, if you find information, to know like who's starting and all of that, because they're trusting you to give them solid advice. Now, we don't really earn anything from doing FPL, but we're still doing this to try and help people, right? And I guess the funny part about it was they could have done, like, I saw a tweet from Adam, above average FPL. He was like, you could have at least started Walker, even if you knew he was not going to play. And then, okay, he doesn't play, he gets subbed off at least. Compared to like buying him and then benching him, you basically wasted a transfer as well. I can't understand where the logic in all of that is. So I think you have to, once you start sharing news, you have to stick to it. You can't then suddenly decide, oh, okay, I don't want to share this news because I get an advantage from it. If you're a leaker, you should, if you get news, you leak, because you built your audience on that. If you are a person who gets info and you don't share it, fine. No one knows about it. No one knows that you are a person who gets info and you don't share because that's info for you. Now, what is it? Andy, let's talk FPL. I think when he got Arsenal news, he shared the Gabriel news, but before as well, he said that he didn't really want to get leaks, and he told people not to send him leaks because if it goes wrong, then it's his problem as well. But if he gets news that is legitimate, he shares it. So, as a content creator who is earning, especially the bigger content creators who can influence the masses, you kind of have a responsibility to try and, if you get news that affects a lot of people and you're telling people that Walker is a good pick, because every model would have told Walker is a good pick. Everyone who's looking for a defensive transfer ahead of the double game week is also going to suggest Walker. I myself suggested Walker. I actually selected Walker as my 4 game week player pick as well, for FPL IQ. So because it was a pretty straightforward pick, and then this happened. So it feels a bit unfortunate, but that is just part of, I guess, the entire game. And then not even going to get into the dodgy Haaland price rise from nowhere as well.
It doesn't help as well that people feel that there's like an FPL cabal, right? Like there is like a clique. It doesn't help when stuff like this happens. And I think we'll mention it later, but briefly, like, trust for content creators has absolutely plummeted in the last couple. Massively. We had the hub leak. We've had homophobic issues and comments. How have these sort of situations been rewarded? Hub gets X pros on their shows and earns an extra $500,000 or $1 million in revenue, Kickstarter funding or whatever you call it. Homophobic people's getting more jobs now on like Sky Sports and things like that. It's just massively on the decline in the last years, and stuff like this really, really does massively poor. There was another and the gambling as well was this season, if you can believe it. That was this season as well. Like, it's just, and since Twitter now you can earn money from interactions if you're a premium or pro account or what you call it. Interaction farming is absolutely horrible. I'm sick and tired. Like, a good thing, and another reason why I like this team and you other people that I approached to join make FPL IQ was we've unfollowed a lot of people. Like, we don't follow other content a lot, but it pops up sometimes either on your For You page or because someone you do follow retweets their account. And just, I'm interaction farming. They'll have like Dubravka with the captaincy on. Trying this on for size. You're not. You're absolutely not. You're doing it because you're getting likes and comments. You're earning money from it. It's the same thing on Twitter where, like, clickbait is when you make a title and you don't discuss that in your video. That is clickbait. Where you don't fulfill the promise of the title or the thumbnail, that is called clickbait. That is like literally but we call this is Walkergate. We're discussing Walkergate. Right? If I said the secrets hidden behind Walkergate and I never revealed it, that's clickbait. Everything just feels like FPL used to be this great niche of nerdy, geeky people who would be like, "Oh, I'm not going to start Leighton Baines this game week because he's always achieved 2 points fewer during a snowy day." Right? It's gone from that to, is Haaland a good pick? Like, I don't know where it's going, but the trust has just massively gone. Stuff like this just going to be. Lucian.
Go on, Ryan, quick one. There was that tweet as well that came that captains is going to be hard to select this week. That came out from FPL Main Road. Literally, the team she came out was City, and it was all the players that anyone would have captained were already there. But that tweet was enough to like put doubt into so many moves and captaincies and everything, just because of like such a cryptic tweet because you want the interaction farm. But like,
and that's it. Like, they have all the players, and they'll just be like, "Oh, a certain person with brown hair's not starting today. Oh, you never guess who's got 2 eyes and is playing centre back. Just tell us who it is." It's all about tweaking, like milking every like. And the thing is, and I haven't checked, like, so FPL Rockstar is like, for me, is like one of the original league. I've not checked his social interactions or his follower gains or anything like that. But was it FPL Main Road has got, I don't know what he's on now, but he got like 30,000 or something like a week, right? If he said, I don't get the leaks anymore, I will guarantee you now his numbers would stagnate or decline. Because you said it earlier, people follow those people because they give you that information. That's it. I don't care about his football opinion. Or I don't care about what he thinks about certain assets in FPL. I don't even know if he plays FPL. We just know him as a. Tien.
I think it's probably a good idea to just get on into the questions that I asked. So because we kind of touched on it already. So the first question I had for you guys is what is expected of a regular FPL manager, and what is expected for a big content creator, especially those that are full time. And for those full time content creators, what are the implied obligations when they charge people for their content or advice or information, right? And I think a key consideration there is how do you see the separation between the service provision, so they're providing content and as a service, right, because they charge money for it, and their self-interest, which is their own FPL team. And for me, there are a few content creators I respect a lot and I still regularly follow. They do that very well. They separate the two really well. Obviously, they have their own FPL team, but they know the barrier. They know the boundaries that, when they do content, their content is purely about providing, the value for money if they charge money, or even if it's for free, but it's still a good content purely trying to fulfill the promise that they make in making that content. So and then they will mention their FPL teams and what they do with them, but they make it very clear when they mention about their teams. And generally those from my experience, those good content creators, they don't care too much about their ranks. They play FPL just to have that kind of like engage in the game itself, but they don't care too much about their ranks and their teams. As opposed to a few content creators where it seems very evident from the way they present the content is it's all about their team, or it's more about their team. And then of course they provide content and information and advice, but there's a very blurry line between the two. And the Walkergate is a classic example of that, where they act on the information and they withhold it from their audience or followers, even paid subscribers, but they still decided to act out of self-interest. And I think that is sort of crossing the line in terms of the obligation, even though they could say that, oh yeah, I have no obligation to provide leak information, right? Well, that's fine. If that's what you set out to do, then that's fine. Like you can say, I can get leak information and I decide to never share it. That's perfectly fine. But if they've been sharing it, it becomes the premise for people to come and follow them, people to come and subscribe to them, and people pay money to get that information. Like obviously, there's a lot of dead live streams out there, right? And they are the big ones that have massive amount of audience. Of course, sometimes they're there for the FPL discussions and all that, but guarantee that a lot of those people tuning in just for the leaks, because they know that this content creator constantly have leaks, right? So that's the premise. It's like a marketing tool. So, but then suddenly they decided, oh no, this week I'm not going to do that. This week I'm going to just withhold that information and I'll just act it for my own team. And that is, I think, is where the line has been crossed. And I think that's probably where I have a big problem with this issue.
So I've talked about content creator responsibility. You always get people that say it's just a free game, or it's not that deep. That's fine. You have different levels of managers, right? People who love it and it's like their main hobby, to casuals who log in 5 minutes before deadline and transfer in Kante, even though he's now in Saudi Arabia, kind of thing, right? And that's fine. But I and this isn't just FPL. This is content creators for every genre, right? I do feel like there is a certain responsibility for your own communities, and I have spoken about this when the hack happened and when like the gambling happened. Like, I do feel like a content creator has a certain responsibility of their community that they create, and this falls into that category. Like, I don't know how, if you're a paid person as well, if you pay or donate to a content creator and their content is mainly about transfer advice or team selection videos or here to help you and guide you, and you're paying them money, how can you ever sit there again and trust that person? So what is expected for me is like, just to be honest, to be on the level. Like, how can anyone listen or watch or read those content creators again without in the back of your mind thinking, is he holding or is she holding some information away? Like, why am I donating this guy £5-10 a month to help me to be a better manager when they're literally not sharing what they know? They're there to share their knowledge and help me, but they're not sharing their knowledge or helping me. For me, it's just, so your question is like, what's expected of maybe content creators? All I just want is some. You can do clickbaity stuff, that's fine. You can do a thread of tweets to get out interactions. I accept that for just some honesty. Seriously, like, just feels so sly, so secretive, and it just feels like if you're in that community, how can you look at the leader of that community, the creator of that community, and ever trust a piece of content they do again? Because they'll have done content this week that might have said, bring in Estepinian, or bring in Saliba, or bring in a different Man City defender. They might have even said this week that Walker was someone that you should buy. Because Walker, like I said, he's played everything except the last 30 minutes of Sheffield United. This week they've probably said, yeah, Walker's a simple pick. He's got a double game week. He's the most nailed City player. He's played the most minutes. So Walker's a good buy. And then they go around and they bench him. So they've literally screwed people in their own community. I just think, honestly, that's the only thing that I would like. Apparently, it seems a big ask in it. Lucian, what are your expectations? Content creators' obligation.
I am a content creator that has recommended Kyle Walker to many people this week. And by no means would I have caught this leak. And usually, if I did not know about this cartel of information, I would have just put it down to a random event. Sure. I mean, random stuff happens, right? For all you know, somebody's parents could get kidnapped next week. And, I'm so glad that the family is back together now. But, like, you don't see these things coming. You don't. Well, at least you're assuming that you don't see these coming. So I think that's where the dissonance is between a regular FPL manager and a content creator. I don't know about you guys. I've been watching lots of stand-up comedy, because they give shit, they take shit, and most importantly is that they like laughing at themselves. This is one I came across, part of the algorithm. I think his name is James Kennedy or something like that. And he said, or at least he was like sort of, painting a realistic picture for people who do certain types of content, which I will not elaborate on here. But in the end, like, we all just have to admit that we are hoes. And yeah, most content creators probably will have to admit at some point that they are hoes for the FPL crowd's attention. And the question comes down to whether that attention will bring in money. It really is as simple as that. But whether it's a matter of using fake interactions, like I've seen people just walk into a room just to try on different dresses because they are adults that happen to be able to wear children's size clothing, right? Because they're extremely short, and they get like thousands of people watching them. So it's like the Dubravka captain, yeah, exactly that. I don't see this as a problem, at least in terms of the whole. I call it the attention market, the attention economy, because in the end, you're turning other people's time into money. That's part of the algorithm, and that's fine. That's what ads exist for. However, what I do not take lightly would be the group of people that own this information. I, Rob, would like to expand on that point that besides the analytics community, I have this website and this app, Fpl Gameweek. All you have to do is scroll down. Okay, I'm saying this publicly to everyone so that they know how to access this, right? go to the statistics tab. Statistics tab. All right, scroll all the way down to Kyle Walker. Oh, sorry. You have to make sure that under statistics, you choose the content creators tab. Then you scroll down to Kyle Walker. And when you scroll down to Kyle Walker, you will see one content creator has started him. He has been vociferous about this whole issue. And then, oh, sorry, forgot to zoom in. There are 9 content creators in the Content Creators League that have benched him, which I shall not reveal. But what's the word? I invite everybody to go take a look at the 9 content creators who have benched him, and you will see very common or denominators among that group of people. So yes, the analytics community are part of it, but so is a group of content creators from a certain website. I have nothing against the evil empire. I usually have nothing against insider trading either, because I used to invest in stocks, and I know what it's like to be dabbling in insider trading. So logically, you don't want to do anything with the info. Honestly, I have a feeling deep down some of these content creators wish they did not know the info. But as Ryan said, when you get leaks, you're not getting it directly from the source. You're getting it second hand, third hand, 100th hand, and it's like spreading like wildfire by the time it reaches you, right? You're just passing on the message, and usually these are confirmed. And the idea here is that we as normal FPL managers, most of us, would try our best to at least just discern this information correctly. And this is where, for me, the line has been crossed. To our best ability, when we discern information, this type of information is something that, yeah, no one would see coming. And I mean, I still wonder, like now, if let's say, right, first and foremost, from a person who is working and potentially makes money, sorry, if I were to spend the income I have, the dispensable income I have on content creators, just to trust their leaks, just to trust their information and advice, right? Will I get exclusive? It's like my incentive actually out of all of this is, will there be a way to access this sort of leak exclusively? Will I be able to access this golden information that other people cannot have? Because now those group of content creators have put themselves on a pedestal. They make me go, hey, I actually want to go meet them. And I'm very sure I'm not alone in this. I know people who have spent hundreds of pounds subscribing to different content creator websites, including mine. And I'm really grateful for that, because I'm peanuts compared to them. So I wonder, right? Is this really truly a marketing move? I would happily believe that it's just part of the game that they play. And it's, for me, the beginning of a very slippery slope where FPL officially begins to become pay to win. That is where I fear the most. And that is probably going to make me invest a lot less in terms of interest for the FPL game, unless something changes in the rules, such as the deadline shifting to the first minute of kickoff or something like that. Yeah, otherwise, it's directly unfair competition unless you pay for leaks. This did not used to be the case when content creators, did not have access to information behind the scenes, but now they do. And yeah, we have to live with it. That's where I end my opinion.
That was FPL Gameweek app. So, well, some of them have already admitted that they got the leak. But I know that Mark Southern said that he benched him because of the reason why people thought he might be benched was him having a second child with mistress. But my argument against that post on Twitter was, this happened months ago. The interview happened recently, but all of this happened months and months ago when he was looking to go to Bayern Munich. So that's why I'm against that argument that but everyone's known about it for ages. And the actual issues and it all coming out and all the pain and whatever, that happened months ago. It's just the fact that he's gone and done a newspaper interview with the worst newspaper as well, which makes it somehow even worse. It just, that's the thing I don't get as well. Just because he's done a public interview, now he's getting dropped. But all of the mental anguish that, to be fair, he caused happened months ago. So that's why I just felt like, why would you need to be benched now when all of this came to a head a long time ago, when he was playing 90 minutes game in, game out? Let's go on to the second question that Tien's posed here. When do some minor annoyances or inconveniences become unethical behavior? Right, so Tien will start us off with that. We'll go Tien, Ryan, Lucian, me, because I need to go get some water. If I'm not here after Tien, Lucian, Ryan, and then Tien.
Yeah, so we touched about team leagues, right? And then everyone will see that, you know, the team league started a few years ago with FPL Rockstar. But I admire him because he realized pretty quickly that became a problem. I'm pretty sure he still regularly has leaked information, but he announced publicly a few years ago that he would stop posting the leaked news before the deadline. He would post it after the deadline, you know, just a few minutes before the lineup come out or something. But he made it very clear that he would not be involved in this sort of leaking information before the deadline. But there's a big insurgence of recent leakers who certainly have, you know, very solid insider information, and they seem to be working alongside big content creators, sort of like work together to, you know, it's like a symbiosis, right? You know, they coexist and they develop each other. They sort of lean on each other's strengths to develop. And team leagues are particularly annoying for us, especially us on this side of the world, where, you know, sometimes the deadlines are sort of in the middle of the night or early morning, when most of people are asleep, right? So it's annoying that we don't access that information, so we can't act on them. And I accept that. I accept the disadvantages, and I say, well, it's just a you know, a minor annoyance. But obviously, there seemed to be clear evidence that some of these people, big content creators and the leakers together, they purposefully use this information. They time it really well. The way they, you know, they craft their message and post as well. It's mainly about, you know, clickbaiting and maximizing interactions, like the timing as well. Like they would have the information hours before the deadline, not if not more, right? But they would only release it, let's say, like, you know, 10 minutes before the deadline, because they know that is the time that will get the maximum interactions and engagements, and that turn into money. So and then Lucian mentioned this sort of behind closed doors group chats of big content creators as well, where they share information, and then obviously they decide which one they share more broadly and which one they don't. So I can name a few examples. There was a sudden Gameweek 26 wildcard, I think a couple of seasons ago, when suddenly out of nowhere all big content creators started talking about wildcarding with like hours to go before the deadline. And I think last season everyone was pushing triple captaincy on Haaland, even though the double game week wasn't very favourable. It's like Tottenham and something Arsenal. Like, you know, it's like it wasn't the but then they were pushing it. It's all in this group chat, and then even last game week, like they were pushing Palmer as a alternative captaincy option, but then in the end, like I think 90% of the content creators in that content creator leagues captain Saka, for example. It's just like they always told people something during the week, but then at the end they all stick together and do something else. And to me, some of that initially I thought, oh well, they can do whatever they want, but then it slightly become unethical in the way that they promise certain things. What we just said about what is expected of them and why people come to certain content creators on the promises of that they will provide certain things, but then they do the opposite for their own team, for their own benefits, and for their own ranks and all of that. And to me, that is the unethical aspect of it, because it's a direct conflict of interest between what they promise to provide their followers and their audience, and especially the paid subscribers as well, and their own self-interest. And that leak, so there's Sertal put out a thread explaining the incident of Walker, and he openly admitted that yes, there was a leak in the group chat of these content creators that about Walker being benched, but then they were asked not to spread the information further. So it's like someone come in and say, I'm giving you this information, but you got to keep it a secret. And of course, they didn't tell anyone, but they acted on it. And then, of course, when 90% of Walker owners benched him out of nowhere, as Rob already said, of course, people are going to ask questions, right? And then, some of them try to cover up with sort of excuses and whatever else. But in the end, it's not about them feeling guilty or anything. It's about them being afraid of losing this source of information, because inadvertently they disclose it. And so it's once again it's gonna come back, or it potentially can come back to hurt their own hip pocket, because of losing that information in the future. It's losing that potential source of revenues for them as well. So it's a lot of it initially, when I thought months ago, was like, oh yeah, just some feeling annoyed that I don't have that information because I was asleep when that information came out. But then it's just becoming just a regular occurrence that it's now every game week now people expect leaks, and then people expect who they can go to get leaked, right? And that is, or that has been built on those the premises and those relationships between the leakers and certain content creators, that they coexist, and then they help each other to sort of develop their base of followers and subscribers, and therefore their income out of that as well. But then it's just like the way they've been doing things is a lot of it, I think, has become, or venturing into, the unethical behavior rather than just minor annoyances, in my opinion. And yeah, some of the leakers, the current leakers, are really, really bad, in my opinion. Like there's little ethics in the way they deal with the information they have, and the way they manipulate. I think it's the word to use is they are manipulating and exploiting us using that information that they have for their own benefits. Nothing else. They're not helping us. Don't think that they're helping us. They're helping themselves and their own hip pockets. Anyway, I will stop there.
So you said, so Sertalp is actually someone I asked if they had time to join FPL IQ, part of the team as well. But he didn't have, and this was last summer. And he is someone, I think, who does great work. Charge for from what I know, he doesn't charge for does. But people also need to understand that you can like someone and think they're a nice person and great, but equally say that what they did was wrong. And that's something that I feel on Twitter some people have not been able to understand. He's great. He does a lot of free things for the community. He makes really detailed stuff. His analytical algorithm skills, whatever, is through the roof. But you can equally say, dude, you were wrong. Like, you knew it was wrong. And I didn't like his apology or explanation. Because just the end of it, like, oh, being all together for the community. It's like, dude, you've just people who follow you and take your advice, and you've literally held information from people who trust you. Because it is an element of trust. People don't understand that. Doesn't matter. Like, if you've clicked subscribe, if you just like, we're thankful for the people who are in the stream right now. You've given your time and your attention. Even just hitting a like or a subscribe or watching as a non-liker or subscriber, you are, in essence, giving us a element of trust to take on board our ideas. You can agree or disagree with them, but you're giving us a moment of your time. And if you give something time, you give it. And just the whole winded apology, that's what we're going to get as well. We're going to get like, oh, yeah, they told us not to say, so we'll do better next time. I've seen these apology posts from content creators across the spectrum. And I'm just tired of it. The older I get, the grumpier I get about it. And just the more I just feel like, Carl Pilkington with Ricky Gervais, and he has Captain Bullshit. And that's what I just feel like. That's why, like, people just say in the last, especially since the hub hacks, it's like, oh, you're negative. Just because I call them out, just because I just say bullshit. Sorry, bullshit. Mark Southerns, a huge icon of the FPL game. I'm sorry, you had one free transfer in. You brought Walker in for future game week. You brought in a player that you think is dropped now for a future game week. Why would he not be dropped then? You spent your one free transfer an hour before deadline to then bench him. Bullshit. I'm sorry. That's just like, he's an incredible content creator. He's an all-time great of FPL. But you can also like someone and just say, mate, I think that's a little bit dodgy. I don't think that's necessarily true. I read the notes because I missed the start of your point, Tim, but all the things about the team leaks, but when it goes across using it as a marketing tool for engagement and interaction forum and all that, don't like it. Money's like one of the worst things, and it's really great, and I'm not jealous because I wouldn't quit my job now to be a paid content creator. I wouldn't. I don't earn any money from this. I don't earn anything, but I don't know how much. So let's say what you think, Andy. Let's Talk FPL's the top one biggest earner. He's at least
Probably.
up there, right? He's all the way up there. I'm not sure what I don't know how much that money that is, but in terms of job stability and all that, like, I couldn't do it. Like, I would not quit my qualified job now to take up a role. So I'm not jealous of these content creators because I don't want their job. I do this for fun as a hobby. But as you get into that, money's just the worst thing that's happened to it. And it's great that they've got their dream job of being a content creator. But I would tell you that if they had an honest and frank discussion, what started out as a really likable hobby for them, now for full-time content creator, is probably turning horrible. Like, I love playing Xbox and PC, right? I play FIFA or EAFC, and I've been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate recently. If that became my job, and I had to do that every day, to a certain level, like, I'm not sat on the sofa in my underpants, bag of Doritos, munching and just playing Baldur's Gate 3, right? Because I'm on winter vacation. If I had to, like, properly, get dressed, sit there, plan stuff out, chat to the audience and all that lot, I would hate it. And I love video. I've video gamed my entire life. And if that became like a 5-day-a-week job, I'd hate it. Like, I think if they were honest, they would say, I don't like FPL now compared to before. They mustn't. How can they? So money's like the worst thing. It all boils down to money. If there was not a penny in the game, people would be not doing all of the stuff that seems to earn. That's what I feel. But yeah, the rest of the points, Tim, I agree with. But I just think you can still call someone out. It doesn't make you a bad person. Like, you can disagree with what people say, from the little things to the big things, but people just won't call it out. And then you'll find out next month that these people will have 10,000 more subscribers and 100,000 more cash or whatever, and it's the way the world is. We have to deal with it. Lucian, what are your thoughts about annoyances, inconveniences, unethical behaviors?
Sorry, I was just reading messages from chat, and I just wanted to say thank you to Karen and I am 1974. I really thank you guys for empathizing. It is, it helps. It helps. Ah, wait. I'm a look at the exact question again. Minor annoyances, inconveniences. Oh, okay. First and foremost, I need to give a little bit of context in terms of my personality, because it is not easy to annoy me as a teacher. It is not. So in terms of annoyances for the game, I am more annoyed at the archaic game mechanics, because the solutions are all within the mechanics, and it's not as if, it's a breakthrough in technology, right, to run. But otherwise, inconveniences for me lie in the bigger picture of not appreciating certain people within the community. I very rarely see big content creators actually give shout out to smaller ones, unless they are somewhat affiliated with, producing content for state website. But I think we are all in it for the hustle, in terms of creating content on a regular basis. And of course, for every 9 content creators who do run of the mill stuff, you do get 1 to 2 special people. But I'm not here to plug users now. I just find that in the whole big picture of things, right? It's as Rob said earlier, what do you play the game for? Lots of us play the game outside of Twitter. Strange as it might seem, lots of us play the game, like I still have my league with my students in school, and they don't know anything about content creators. Like, they don't even listen to me nowadays. They just see what other people do, and they read, and they don't really have a content creator they subscribe to. The world is much bigger than we think. And for me, the annoyance is just the lack of empathy, for the sake of getting the bag, as millennials like to speak. But I mean, honestly, I have nothing against the way people make money, because I think from the get-go, the minute the attention economy started, the idea is that you have to sell your personality. It's the exact same formula that FPL mate capitalized on. I mean, yeah, he got that triple-digit rank at whatever stage of the season, just like Oscar and all that. But I mean, to begin with, they were likable people. Frankly, I still believe that deep down they are likable people. But as Rob said already, like, you would take their FPL advice with a grain of salt. Now, in terms of actual annoyances, I'd say people who refuse to change get on my skin the most. Because we have to admit that FPL is changing, information that disseminates down to us is changing, point scoring is changing, and the game of football is changing, right? From redefined roles to roles brought back from the 60s, to chips, to blanks, to the way things clash with each other. Everything changes, and people who live by really old philosophies are the ones that really get to me. And people like that who shut down other people's philosophies are the ones that make me go, what is the point of talking to you? Like, you're worse than a mouth breather. Really. I really mean that in the most genuine sense. So I mean, at this stage, I'm not here to spread hate. I I would like to apologize, I guess, for not standing up for people who feel aggrieved by the unfairness of FPL. But I mean, it's an online platform that celebrates anonymity and free speech. So, you know, hey, don't hate the player, hate the game, right? I do feel though for people who do not receive the recognition that they deserve, because creating content is not easy. And I'm not referring to putting your face in front of a camera and talking and eating Doritos with on your tummy and whatnot. I'm referring to like genuinely planning the things that you want to do within a week so that you prep well enough ahead of time, reorganize, whatever day schedule that you have, and genuinely, put work. Like the moment you see a content creator put out content, you can tell immediately whether he has actually put in work doing something behind the scenes, whether it's graphic design or studying certain things with it using footage or whatever it is, or he's just reading off a table and just spending time putting it nicely into a readable format. Like some content creators, I find, right, the smaller ones, they put a lot of effort into making sure that the 200 characters we see, right, are there and eye-catching enough so that we click on the read more because they are verified, and it expands, and we see the rest of it. And I really appreciate that. It takes skill, it takes practice, and it takes a few tries to fail before you really learn how to make this sort of content. So that's really where I would conclude, because I feel that humans are way more valuable than points to me. And that's why I love this gang. Thank you so much, Rob, for bringing us together.
And what you said about, like we said way back at the start of this, like we don't usually share a lot of information about our own teams, and the people that we sometimes listen to or watch, they don't either, because we care, like you said just then, we care more about their thought process and how they've come to decisions and why they're backing players and teams, etc., rather than, I sometimes feel that, especially towards the start of the season, if you're inside the top 10k, you've had a lot of luck, because you'll have had some players that no one had saw, that no one expected to smash it, that have gone ahead and done so. So I usually like managers don't talk, because that's how you become a better manager, right? If I sit there and I say I made these transfers, by the way, Walker, I didn't tell you about, and I'm 25k, you're not going to learn anything. If I just tell you who I'm buying and then I tell you about my journey, like, you're not going to be able to talk about that. Ryan, what are your points about annoyances, inconveniences, and ethical behavior?
Unethical. I guess you guys have touched on most of it. Annoyances is like, I don't know, it's already creating content and doing deadline streams at wee hours in the morning, which is also not as easy. It's, I guess we do it because we enjoy speaking with the people in our community, mainly. That is the first and foremost reason. And then the other reason is like, we try and help people, but at the same time, our community also tries and helps us in a way as well. So we'd have like a discussion going on. It's not, here are the 10 players that I will tell you to buy, now go buy them. No. These are the players that we're thinking about. Maybe these are the reasons why we've come up with these players. And then they could also have a feedback with us and be like, okay, this is maybe what I've seen, stuff like that. So in one way, I am actually glad that as a small content creator, we have a close-knit community compared to maybe some of the bigger content creators who have a lot of people who watch them and they probably don't even know 3/4 of their viewer base. So in one way, I'm actually happy that we are a small content creator. Now we would like to get big, but by starting small and going like slowly grinding and growing up, we get to know more people and we get to know them better. But yeah, that's. I feel like you guys have covered like everything else, so I don't really have much more to add on to it.
Yeah. So concluding the discussion on this then is what can we do like as a community or as content creators. So Tien, I'll let you lead on this one. What do you think is a good solution, or what would you maybe change about?
Yeah, so I've done this myself already. Like so Lucien and I kind of we did this long time ago, right? It's like a lot of these big content creators, when we understand their sort of motivations and the way they do things, at some point you'll probably start to realize that their value that the value that they provide don't really align with what you are seeking. And initially, I was very hesitant to sort of unfollow them. Like, it's like, well, oh yeah, but they still have insight. They still have certain things that I can get. But then to a point where it will be like, I don't know why I'm watching these contents or I'm reading what they say, because they don't add anything to to my knowledge. So once you understand where they're coming from and their motivations and what they do, don't be afraid to just unfollow them. Right? It's not about the people, as you say. Like some of them are probably very nice personalities in real life, but it's just like it's just their content and where they are in terms of content creation. It's just become a different focus. And a quick test, if anyone want to try out, anyone in the chat want to try out, is try to ask the content creator a question. Either DM them or tag them on Twitter, see if they respond. If they never respond to you, then that's probably not the right content creator to follow. It's very important to pick and choose these days because there's just so many out there. So find out who you can trust and who you can actually genuinely interact with, and coincidentally, generally they are the smaller content creators that are generally still enjoying the aspect of content creation rather than just doing it because they have to. And as Ryan said, like actually enjoying and value that interactions. And by doing that, you will avoid being milled by these big content creators and the leakers as well. Because your engagement, your interactions are exactly what they want. They want from you. It's just the interactions and the engagement to make money out of it. They don't care about your team. Try to post your team and ask them the question. See if they answer. So yeah, and then you can make a decision for yourself, like who is actually worth following and who is actually worth talking to. And then you can see whether the advice you can follow. Obviously, you can't follow everyone's advice because everyone's advice will probably be different. So stick the one that's sort of more in alignment with what your needs are, and maybe fitting your style of play, or those that add value to your knowledge, and improve you as an FPL manager. Now, my final point I want to make is actually you can actually use the influences that the big content creators make, and it's huge. Like, you can't underestimate how big of the sort of the follower base of these big content creators collectively is huge, and that is who you are playing against. Like, you're talking about 10 million plus FPL teams, right? I call them teams because that's not 10 million people. There will probably be between, I don't know, 400,000 to maybe a million maximum. active managers, and a lot of them will be following the big content creators in terms of their moves and their advice and whatnot. And in my opinion, a lot of the moves and a lot of the practices that come from these big content creators are not very good, especially sort of longer term, because they created content to maximize interactions, and generally it's got to be sort of like a short term, week by week mindset. So if you play into that, you can actually beat them, and then you can actually win over them in terms of like getting better. If overall ranks, for example, is what you're playing for, it can play into the influence of these big content creators and their followers, and try to beat them. And I think that's probably something that you can do as well.
I really like the idea that I have about if you type in a chat on a stream or on a video or on Twitter and you never get a response, why are you giving them? I've seen it. Like I said, I don't watch all this, and partly to do, but if I see like a deadline stream and I'm just listening to them just to maybe get some, if when I see I used to do it when I used to stream on Twitch and watch Twitch while the live. I'm looking at a chat and it's going that fast. Why even bother chatting? Why even bother sending a message on that? If they're never giving you any of their time, why do you bother giving them your? Unless you just sit there and you're just like, oh, I just fancy like, oh, turn the TV on or YouTube or whatever, have a click. I just want to see a transfer suggestion. I'm not that bothered about it. That's fine. But if you're someone who actively keeps messaging or in a chat or a Twitter message or reply or DM or whatever, that means you have put some effort into that connection, right? And if you're never getting a response, then there's loads of content creators that would give you the time of day. And I just don't know why people waste the time on someone. Like I said, unless you just want a casual watch in the background, you maybe want to catch a leak on a deadline stream. You don't say anything, that's fine. But if you are someone who actively messages for that response, that means that I agree. There's plenty of people out there who try and actually help you, not just want your number in a box. I like that idea. Try to talk to someone and don't talk back. I did the same as you guys. Well, about just unfollowing people who've done this before. People who do those farming tweets or who just milk information, or earlier about like the gambling stuff or the homophobic comments and all that lot. Just unfollow them. Block them, mute them, unfollow them. It's weird as well when people's like you can block or mute whoever the hell you want on your account. It doesn't matter if you're Joe Nobody or you're Billie Eilish. It doesn't matter who you are. You have the right to block anyone for any reason. Your life. You don't have to talk or listen or interact with anyone you don't want. Use it. Oh, they blocked me, the little coward. No, who cares? Well, I'm not going to see it. I blocked you. So definitely, like, my Twitter experience has massively improved this year by not getting annoyed at those posts that annoy me. Like I said, I still see them because some followers might retweet it or some people I follow might comment on it, so then it pops on my feed. I can't stop that without unfollowing the people that I do want to. But not see just this constant stream of certain content creators who just bow out herd mentality or picks or obvious. Actually, just like trying to just like I said, trying to have captain on for size. By not having that on my timeline, it doesn't come up on my Twitter. It doesn't come so much better. So I think that's an easy piece of advice: is just unfollow these people. If you no longer trust a certain person because they've withheld this information from Walkergate, just unfollow them and move on, and that's fine. And then you get the quality rather than the. Lucian, what can we, as individuals or?
Sadly, I don't think we can do anything as a community right now, because the lack of regulation leads to abuse. Content creators are not regulated. FPL isn't regulated. I mean, we live and play a game where everything is literally the wild, wild west, from points changes that don't change according to correct accreditation, all the way to price changes that are based off a myth and, Homer Simpson pressing a button when he feels like it. So, we are playing a wild, wild west game, and we have to admit it. We really have to admit, welcome to the jungle. I mean, how often do you see official FPL tell us how many bots accounts they've terminated, how many second accounts they found out? Honestly, with the community, in terms of community, what you can do is build your own community. I think this is the safe time to say that I have, had the privilege to be invited by a Malaysian guy, right? And he's invited me into a league where he's just like, can you be admin for a league of like 100 Malaysian managers? And the Malaysian player base is huge, right? It's like 300,000 or something like that. So 100 people is nothing. I get in there and I get to like have the chance to ask him, hey, instead of playing one season where we only reward the top scorer and maybe the top 10 people who are barely interested, why don't we split the season into 4 parts, where, you have one season that's worth 8 game weeks, and you split all the 100 teams into 5 divisions, and you have a mini tournament in each division, and then you have promotion and relegation. Like, it's a lot to set up. It's a two of this season. I cannot get out of the bottom division, but whatever, right? And the onus is on people to create their own community. You can do it as long as you know a group of people that are interested to play. I do feel that the community itself is big and mature enough to gain its own strength. Like, honestly, among the millions of people who follow Andy or Dan or whoever it is, if they just started creating your own little thing, which I'm pretty sure they do, right? Like a sub community within a community, they can have their own haven of interaction and healthy tweets and, things to laugh about, their own inside jokes and all that. Like, I I think that is healthy in itself, to create sub communities within communities. But anyway, that's just like from a big picture perspective. In terms of something that I feel is still not talked about enough, mental health is first priority when playing FPL. I think we don't do enough to preserve our own mental health, let alone other people's. And this is why once in a while, sorry people in the chat, I do advocate for us to like just take a break and like have our own little chat amongst ourselves, just the 4 of us, just honestly chat, live chat. We just talk to each other and catch up with each other on each other's lives. Like Ryan, Tian, Rob, they ask about my children, we ask about Rob's children, Tian's children. We just talk about each other's lives, and honestly, like, appreciating each other as human beings is far more important, right? When you look past the content creator or the manager, the high ranks, right, that Tian has. Like, you look past all of that, and what do you have left? You have 4 wonderful human beings who are willing to share their stories, commit their Thursday evenings, right? When I've got children upstairs waiting for me. We're here. And that's worth more than anything. So, showing appreciation who can rebuild. And I guarantee you, whoever that's in chat right now, energize whatever content creator who's putting the extra time, effort, hours, practice, and motivation to just make content with every notion of failing running through his or her mind. I guarantee you it's always there, no matter how experienced they are. So to reach out to them to say, hey, I appreciate you, really, shout out to Bizlin224, who really just said, thank you for posting, and like he just asked me for advice, and I was so happy. I did nothing for him, and he just came up to me and asked me for advice, and just wow. That does a lot for us. That does a lot. So thank you.
Fully agree, because for me it's about the people and the process. Like, if I already said, when I stopped doing content a couple of years ago when my daughter came, I said I'm not going to do it by myself. For fun, I want to do it with who are like-minded with the love for FPL and creating a community, but maybe different-minded in how we play the game itself. How now, but it's all like this. The starting comments just, I just want honesty. Like, just make the connections. That's the most important thing. I won't say who it was, obviously, but I had a private message to me on Twitter this week, not just about FPL stuff, but they also told me about some of the issues that they're having, and had that connect that, and that stems from just starting by interacting on a basis, and then you make that connection to now that if he or she does have that kind of problem, that they shoot me a message, and I might be awake because of their time zone, and I'll try and reply, and it goes beyond FPL. Like you said, like we'll stare out, we'll have a chat about, we'll see each other's kids and say what we've been doing, and where you guys are traveling and stuff like that, and that's part of FPL. If we didn't have FPL, we wouldn't have met, we wouldn't have started that connection in the first place. Again, people just, if they're that bothered, they need to look at their own lists, their own subscriptions, follow and stuff, and really think, what does this person give? Mentioned in the chat already, like Home, Bobbins have been saying, like, we watch them for fun. Yeah, they'll give me some ideas, but like a multi-person video or stream is for fun. That's why I can't watch it. I haven't, but I do see clips. Something like FPL Juice, with what they do. I think I actually said this 2 or 3 years ago. I was like, I can't believe these guys have like 2,000 subscribers, because they have like a full studio, they have a whole graphics, like it's absolutely pro. Now it seems like they're really going forward, and rightly so, because they offer entertainment. I'm not saying that they're bad FPL managers. I'm just saying, like, they are like the more fun option, and that's happy to follow something like just watching for fun, right? Which is the bottom line. What FPL really about. It's just when we get I want to say important people, community leaders of the community, content creators, who keep doing things to piss off everyone, basically, and that's what's happened. Like, feels like it just comes down to dishonesty. Ryan, what do you think?
Well, apart from what's been mainly said, I guess find out why you started playing the game. If it was just to chill, have fun with a bunch of mates, just continue that, I would say. If you get to know more people as a result of playing the game, you get added to, like Lucian said, get added to different mini leagues. You get to know more people, and if you keep enjoying that, then keep doing it. If it gets, I guess, a bit stressful, then take a step back. But yeah, that's basically I'll add on to it. Don't want to go even further.
Yeah. So let's actually move on to some actual FPL stuff. We're going to be a bit speedier today, because nice. Starting off with the chips. Has anything affected? Because now we have a 5th draw. Mine's just going to be really easy for this one. I'm still looking to triple captain in 25, and I haven't decided if the free hit's going to come out in 26, 29, or 30, 37. I did finally get round, so I don't watch any, or like barely listen to any FPL content. Finally got round to listening to Planet FPL. Planet FPL, right?
Yeah.
Their show from Monday about their chips thing. Now, James his information is incredible, and the content they create for me is up there, and it's why I usually listen, because the knowledge about scheduling, about blanks and doubles, about his reasonings and him and Sudge and all. It's great. It's one of the ones I listen to for fun. Don't follow the moves. It's entertainment. But I think the thinking he has behind it and how he organizes all of, like, this will happen if this and this player might play that. It's incredible. Like, but after I finished, the content, by the way, was excellent. An hour and a half, giving you every kind of way it could fall. This could happen in the FA Cup 5th round. This could happen in the quarterfinal. This could happen in game week 25, 26, 29, 34, 37. Every variation he gave. Incredible research and organization. After I listened to it, I was not smarter about FP. I was not wiser. Because this is the reason why my chip plans haven't changed. There's too many variables still. There's still no concrete, because he was saying, like, it could be a really bad game week 34 double where, like, single game week teams that you like Liverpool or Villa or Newcastle or Arsenal, they'll have better single game weeks doublers like Everton who go to Liverpool. Fair point. But then he said, but this could actually, we could have doublers from Spurs and Chelsea in game week. It just felt afterwards. So my overall plan for chips is not changed because we still don't know. There's still so many variables that Liverpool still might not even double in 25, but they'll blank in 26. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to start getting Jota in, I've still got Salah, he's going to be bench, but I'll start to get Jota in and Trent in, and I have Salah. But game week 26, they will blank. Like, what is it? Liverpool, Spurs, and Chelsea. Luton will blank in 26. If you start loading on now because you think Liverpool will don't, rude, and you're forcing you to be a free stuck in 29. So, just for my opinion, the chip plan, we cannot solidify our chip plans yet, except basically wildcard in 30, and then probably triple captain in 20. Because if Liverpool don't double, I'll just stick it on Haaland. But yeah, that's it. That's all I've got for chips. Ryan?
Triple captain 25. Not wanting to use free hit in 26, and that's it. Everything else is up in the air. I made a table because I was doing a chip pod, and I was literally listing game weeks at this point. And I was like, at the end of the table, I was like, there's just so many possible options because there's so many factors. Even like the FA Cup replay between Chelsea and Aston Villa, that alone will affect whether you play a free hit in 29 or not. Because I know managers who have double Villa, double West Ham, double Chelsea, and they're like, they don't know where to go because you can't even sell players right now because you don't know who's going to blank in 29. So you have to wait for that fixture to decide before who, okay, now these are the players I can let go of. So yeah, they're still up in there.
Jen?
Yeah, so I also agree. I listened to James plenty of FPL and that part on chip strategy is really good. I highly recommend anyone who is interested in a more in-depth analysis of the chip strategies and how the features might fall should listen to that. Yeah, because we are not here to talk about that. Yeah, so the Liverpool and Luton game hasn't been announced, obviously, to game week 25, and James and Ben Crellin and a few others strongly believe that if it doesn't fall on game week 25, the Premier League going to have a big problems with Liverpool not having enough weeks to play their games toward the end of the season. But James also said that if the percentage of double game week 25 will decrease by roughly 2% per hour from now, basically. And by Saturday lunchtime, if it hasn't been announced, then he thinks it'll be very unlikely. So hopefully we'll hear by the game week 23 deadline. If by the deadline there's no double game week, then I think we can assume that there's no double game week for Liverpool and Luton. And then, yeah, the other key information is the Villa and Chelsea replay, which happened after game week 23, so it won't help us before the deadline. So for me, I really I think similar to you two. I think the triple captain will probably be played in game week 25, and I will try to navigate so that I don't have to play the free hit in 26. And then when the free hit and the wild card will be played, yeah, it really depends on how the fixtures fall. And we will only learn about them in the weeks follow. So for me, a key aspect when thinking about this is, trying to balance between long-term planning and short-term gains, because I think I made a mistake by not getting Richarlison, because I constantly think about game week 26 where they blank, and I keep missing his points, and he's continued to hurt me every single week because just because I thought, oh, he's gonna blank in 26, so there's I can't get him now. So similarly, I think I'm gonna start selling my Arsenal players, even if they have a higher possibility of not blanking in 29, because the odd of Villa winning the FA Cup game is higher. So Villa and West Ham are more likely to blank, and Arsenal and Chelsea are more likely to not blank. But I'm still waiting to sell the Arsenal player because I don't believe they will get me a lot of points in the next few game weeks, and I need them to make way for some players that I really need to watch the Chelsea game, because if Villa win, and you are sitting on a goalkeeper pairing of Areola and Dubravka, you probably won't have a goalkeeper in game week 29. But once again, you probably don't have to worry about that for at least a few game weeks.
Lucian?
Well, I'm just looking at dates really. The replay will actually give us a lot of information for the Chelsea Villa replay. I was just looking at the fifth round draws actually. I mean, I think the Wolves Brighton game will have some bearing on the Wolves Bournemouth game in 29, but that's like still a pretty high chance because if Bournemouth beat Leicester, then they're okay. I mean, that turns into a blank. For me, actually, it's well, this is gonna sound ridiculous, but the outcome between the supposedly Nottingham Forest against Man United game in round 5 is actually going to give me incentive to free hit or not. Because if Man United blank and Forest play Luton, I'm definitely on some Luton players at home for the free hit. But if Luton go through and Man United have a game against Sheffield United at home, I'm just thinking to myself, that's a trap. That's a trap in the making. And everyone's gonna go, oh, free hit, Man United players in for 29. I'm just looking at it and I'm going, no. I'd rather just, put free transfers here and there. Maybe I'll dead end at 29, have one Man United player, but that's about it. I mean, at least that's the purpose of me considering a free hit for 29 in the first place, because I do believe that there aren't that many options, to have for 29. I mean, we're all going to be sitting on Spurs and maybe Ivan Toney, right? Those are the only two confirmed fixtures for 29. So I don't see a free hit being that beneficial unless somehow a free hit is going to have us sit on 3 Spurs, 3 Brentford players, both away from home. I just see it, spelling trouble. The upside is just not that high for me to free hit in 29. I'd rather just Like, let it be, field 7 players or 6 players just like everyone else, and then save the free hit for a nice double. Yeah, where I get like 11 doublers or something. At least that's my tendency at the moment, of course, pending the 4th round replays. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, the thing is, if we're talking like conventional play, you usually play your chips and the doubles, the blanks. We've got maybe 25 because there might only just be one double. 26 blank, 29 blank, 34 double 30. But we've only actually got 4 opportunities to play like 3 chips. Jen and I, we don't have the bench boost. But I am more leaning towards a free hit. Just because I said earlier you could dead end into 29, but if you're having to spend game weeks 25 to 29 bringing in Brentford players and West Ham players or something like that, like you can have a miserable 3 game weeks for the sake of one blank game week. People will field 7 players and outscore your 11 that you've held on for weeks. But and it would be, yeah, I know it's crap, but if we do have like United and Sheffield, Man U and Sheffield United in 29, that just makes a free hit. They don't have any Sheffield United, they don't have any Man United, and they don't have any Brentford. The safest team that you can invest in right now is Brentford, but the form's not there. We're going to talk about Brentford soon, but only someone who you can pick. If you've got 3 forwards, but for me, I've just got Haaland, Solanke, and Watkins, and I can't sell any of them because Watkins might play in 29. And Tony's doubles are rubbish. What is he got? City, Liverpool, City in like 3 of the next 4 or something. He can score against anyone, and he's on penalties, so of course there's an opportunity there. And if Watkins blanks, then he's gonna have more. He's gonna have 2 more games. So, that's everyone's thoughts on the chips. So, just a quick one for the matchups because now we're in a I completely forgot to put up Ben Krellin's Ben Krellin's thing here, but it is there. It's not ours. It's Ben Krellin's. Follow him on Twitter. He has all the percentages of what might blank, but it's all hearsay. We don't really know what's going on. The only thing that is almost certain you can see, but none of it's certain, because those fixtures could all change. Which overarching point, I said that we just can't confirm anything yet because. So just a quick one for Brighton and Palace. Any interest in Etse and Elise? I started the season with Etse. I love this duo. I think they seem like really good friends off it from like clips. I follow HLTCO on Twitter. He's like the big Palace fan content about football in general, but he's focused as well as about Crystal Palace. And I see a lot of videos he retweets Palace, and you see them do like, when clubs get the players to do like little fun games with each other and stuff, and you can really see the connection between some. Like you saw like Haaland and Stones joking with each other when they said like the Louvre, because John Stones has got that proper northeast accent, and Haaland was born in Leeds in the northeast of it as well, so he can do a good impression of like the Louvre. But anyway, my point is, you see a lot of clips from Palace which has these two joking with each other. And it was Etse. Was it Elise or Etse won? Was it Player of the Month or Goal of the Month? And they had the other one give them the award. They were joking about it, but off the pitch, the relationship is there. On the pitch, the relationship is there. Form is a little bit iffy, but if Man City weren't doubling, I would absolutely be looking at Etse or Elise. I think they're great. I like them. The only issue is because with all the blanks and doubles going along, I don't know if I, because I've still got Sal. Ryan, your thoughts? You say?
Love the pair. Olise baller in terms of a player, but injuries is the problem. I think Roy Hodgson is like, oh well, they say they're fit, but my medical team tells me not to play them. But I'm going to play them because I need to save my job. And they come out, they score goals, get assists, and then they get injured. It'll be just a cycle of rinse repeat. Now, I think depending on the FA Cup 5th round, how it goes. If Palace do have a fixture in 29, I think their run before that is slightly good as well. So one to probably monitor if they can recover again and not get injured. Hopefully.
85% chance of blanking.
Yeah. But that's Newcastle away. That's a different story.
Jen, your thoughts on the Palace ball?
So exactly the same as what you two just said. Yeah, I think they good, but unfortunately, due to all the double and blanks and whatnot, yeah, just can't find room for them, and the injuries issues as well. Now, just as a side note, if anyone is so I've been playing FPL draft as well, right? So you've got a main FPL team, and then you play drafts with a few friends. I find it's really a really good way to fit these kind of players in, because you can't get them in for your main FPL team, but then you can get them in for your draft team, and then you enjoy the points equally. And it has been really, it just sort of like it. You always have certain players that you can't bring in because there's only 15 players that you can fit in, right? But in drafts, there's a lot of way that you can include players that you normally can't fit in your FPL team, and then you don't miss out. So yeah, just something that I suggest, if you can get a few friends and start a draft league and then just play for fun or whatever, you can add that enjoyment of owning certain players. So like those sort of more punty players, and just make the FPL enjoyment increase a little bit.
Lucian?
Yeah, Palace is vibes, and I think we've all like to admit by now that yeah, Palace players, like in terms of ability, have always relied on individual skill. Like, I think no one is attempting to try and demystify Hodgson's tactics. So, I think what I'd like to stress on a little bit too is that their home and away form is quite distinct. So just mind the fixtures. I mean, I'm not saying have rotations really, but um, just yeah, just expect big points for the big ones for the home games. And for the away games, I think what's important to understand is that Palace do have the chasers mentality, especially when they're losing, right? This was particularly evident when they lost 5-0 against Arsenal. So yeah, just take it with a pinch of salt. Like, just maybe look at Palace's future games, right? Assume that Palace don't take the lead. Assume that they lose the lead. But on top of that, right? Think of who will wrestle the game back for Palace. Because I do feel that players like Olise and Eze, right? They do well when scores are level and the pressure is not that big on them to succeed. But when they're 1-0 down, you actually see them completely taper off. I don't, they make rash decisions, they take shots from outside, and they need like an experienced hit, like a Mateta or an Edouard, just to do something with guile, just to bring them back into the game, win a penalty or something, straightforward like that. That's Palace for me in a nutshell. But for Brighton, wow, that 4-0. Whew. I mean, I do feel that this particular matchup, well, I think we'll bring matchups up later, so I wouldn't go into that. But Brighton have a problem that they refuse to fix, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah, Rob, I think we should just go down the agenda.
How have you not mentioned Ayew in your list of influential Palace players? You're like Ayew's second biggest fan after his mother. Can't believe you didn't. Anyway,
It's the
so
beer. It's that I need to be humble, man. I need to be humble. I can't be that full of myself.
too important. He's so important. Even have to mention. So just the match itself, then. We'll try and just be brief about this. So the opposition, it is a derby. It's what is it? The M6 derby, or the M something derby. It's one of the weirder derbies because they're not near each other, and I can't remember what the history about it is.
South Coast. It's
But
a
it's
South
not.
Coast
No, because
game.
Palace is in London and Brighton's miles away on the south coast. I don't know why this is a derby, and I'm going to have to double check it when you guys are talking. But the match itself, then, Lucian, you want to take it away?
Right, sorry about that. Yeah, I was just googling it. Right, Palace, Brighton. Yes, let's talk about Brighton's weaknesses first, because I think the owners here, Palace obviously on the ascendancy, and we are looking to exploit the direct duels. Right, I think we understand now that no matter who plays at the back for Brighton, they will be very susceptible to just simplicity. Really, hoof a long ball in the air, put them under pressure on corners, or just pressure one of their fullbacks. Like 1v1, for some weird reason, Brighton lose against literally everybody. And Luton thoroughly exposed that. I think the only reprieve here is that Brighton are playing at home, so it's less likely to occur. But West Ham have exploited that. Anyway, the idea of verticality from De Zerbi's side, against Palace at least, is going to come under fire, because I think they are trying a little bit too hard, trying to integrate Danny Welbeck into the side. So it's another period of chaos, and it's very likely that it'll be a short-term experiment that will result in Joao Pedro getting within the goals again. Question is how, because I think Palace away from home, right, have various weaknesses, and Brighton has so many attackers, right? Pascal Gross is no doubt going to be part of the conversation because Palace are terrible away from home. The question is who he creates for, because the irony is that if Pascal Gross creates from wide, Palace are ready. If Pascal Gross tries to create from between the lines, you're reliant on Danny Welbeck finishing, which is also another catch-22 in itself. So I think that's where I feel everyone needs to debate a little bit which factor will be more prominent in this game. Will Palace just hoof it long and just deal direct, or will Brighton dominate the game so hard that this will be irrelevant altogether?
Honest opinion owner. And he was booked at half time, which is a good thing because he conceded again. So he walked away with 1 point instead of. So Colm has mentioned it in the chat. I say, well, but yeah, it's this is how much I love this idea of it being a rivalry, because it's down to one season in 1976 and 1977 because they played each other 5 times. And there's bad blood between then managers Terry Venables and Alan Mullery. And they played each other 3 times in Division 3, right? So that's League 1, because First Division, Premier League, Second Division, League 1, right? And they played twice in FA Cup. And because of that one season when they played each other 5 times and the managers didn't like each other, they're like the biggest rivals for each other. I like that as a rivalry story rather than just the next to each other. I just like that. Quite a funny reason for rivalry. The end. Oh, I only have quick thoughts about the match. Sorry, I'll just finish. Brighton are weird this year. Injuries haven't helped, but defensively nightmare, inconsistent. Their form in the last 11, so coming back to form, lost backwards. So game against Luton, going in reverse. Lost, draw, 1 draw, lost, draw, 1 loss, 1 draw. There's absolutely no form, good or bad. It is a different result every single time. So I wouldn't surprise me if the next one's a win or a draw. And I'm actually backing a draw because this rivalry has, since 2005, 6 Brighton wins, 7 Palace wins, and 9 draws. If I had to say there's going to be a winner, at the minute I'm going to back Palace because of the dream duo. But just not great. I think it's going to be a draw. Both form-wise aren't great for these teams. Don't see any pushing on. And it always feels like it's going to be a close game with Crystal Palace. Brighton, I feel like they could win a game 5-0 or lose a game 5. The end?
Yeah, and I gotta admit that I haven't really watching them very closely because I don't have any assets in either teams. But yeah, just looking like Brighton haven't scored in the last 3 games. Hasn't scored a single goal in the last 3 games in the league, which is quite unusual because they've been the teams that we consider to always concede but always score, right? And you bought Estupiñán thinking that, oh yeah, forget about the clean sheet. I got him for the attacking returns, right? But then he kept like back-to-back clean sheets for you, and no attacking returns. So yeah, I don't know whether they will turn the corner and start to become that same Brighton team that attack and score a lot of goals and try to outscore the other team, or not. We'll see. Yeah, I think I'll go with a draw as well. Probably a 1-1 or something.
Brighton's still just an easy hold to 29 or when you wild card in 30 anyway, because they'll blank it probably in 29 because they're supposed to play City. But game week 23 to 28, they're all green fixtures except Spurs away next week. They just don't buy, don't sell. Ryan, your thoughts on the game? Brighton Palace? Screams garden centre,
so
doesn't it?
yeah, I think Joe Pedro is out apparently
He took
after
a knock, yeah.
versus Luton. Yeah. And apart from that, I was just looking at Brighton's because I saw like a stat mentioned. So they had 5 wins in the first 6, and they've had 3 wins in the 17 matches after that, which is just like insane. The De Zerbi shine has gone. It's gone. So I don't know. Palace, I think Palace's win will most likely come only if both Eze and Olise both are fit. I don't think one alone will be enough. Because I saw the game before against Arsenal with Eze only, they didn't look as great. Palace, they looked pretty open, got cut apart by Arsenal. So we'll see. But I probably agree with you. Probably a draw from what it looks like. Oh, Palace win if both Eze and Olise are fit.
Okay, so let's go on to Brentford Spurs. Both guys doubling. And Brentford, I said earlier, easiest buy you can have because they double in 25 and they play in 29. Our first talk about Tony. Is he fixture proof? I think no, to an extent. He was gifted. Spurs were so bad defensively. Like, was it a doggy who gifted Tony his goal? And then Tony had another big chance in the first half. And even on the goal, could have been, was it a doggy again on the Brentford goal? The defender just stood there and then finally put the leg forward. Or was it Porro? It was one of the defenders. And I just thought his reaction.
Romero, I think.
Did you see his reaction speed? It was so slow. I thought he just thought it was a goal. Oh, now I'll stick my leg out. But it's just the fact that he's got doublers. Chelsea and Villa have annoyed people, myself included, because we could have known more if Villa and Chelsea, sorry, not Spurs, if Villa and Chelsea have annoyed people because they drew in the FA Cup. They could have just sorted that out amongst themselves. Then we could know more about 29, because I probably would have just done Watkins to Tony if Villa weren't playing in 29, because it's 2 games and he's on penalties. In a double game week, he's a 90-minute talisman, so he's probably going to get you 4 points, unless he ends up getting booked. He'll play 90 minutes, he'll probably get you 4 points in a game week, which means Watkins has to score or assist to even sort of pull to that. So I don't think he's fixture proof. I think he was gifted by Spurs, who are bad defensively. I think, Ryan, you pointed out a couple of weeks ago when Newcastle became the worst team defensively, Spurs were the worst team defensively. Like, we love Big Ange's football, they're very attacking, but they can be very suspect at the back. So I don't think that's more about Tony being fixture proof. I don't see Spurs as a red fixture for my attackers. And I would happily play any attacker against Spurs, home or away. But the fact that he's got Liverpool, who also concede, they're not amazing defensively, but playing against City and Liverpool is not making him fix. But if you just want a player to sort of set and forget, then Tony's a choice. Ryan, your thoughts on Tony?
I think I said this before. Form over. Fixtures are king, I said. And not to rain on people who have Tony, and Risky, I think, has in the chat has bought Tony and he's happy with the points. But to be honest, one goal gifted by Udogi from a back pass, and another one because he moved the ball from a free kick location to another location. That is not a repeatable thing in a game. So if I see like I prefer to get FPL players when I look at them, and even if they're not finishing, but if it's like repeatable scenarios, then it's at least there's something behind. This is like gifted opportunities. So at the moment I'm not going. Would I go for the double game week? Probably not, because I still think Watkins has good fixtures over the run that will potentially outscore Tony, even though Tony has that one extra fixture. And again, we'll see. It depends. Obviously, Tony has pens, Watkins doesn't, so that also does play a part. But for the moment, I am not going there. Might change my mind, or if injury happens, but yeah.
That's it. If it's 2 fixtures, it might be worth it. Because if you're wildcarding 30, 2 fixtures between game week 23 and game week 30s.
Yeah.
But Watkins is going to have Sheffield United, Man United, Fulham, Forest, Luton, Spurs before game week 20. Whereas Tony's going to have like what? Liverpool, City, Arsenal. So like, we've talked about this before about sometimes single game week players are better than double game week players. I would rather have Watkins against Sheffield United than Tony against Liverpool. Tien, Tony?
If I remember correctly, last week I was probably the one that was warmest again towards Tony, right? And I think I see the same. Like, yeah, I agree with you that he's not fixture proof. But as I said last week, like, being the talisman of the team, whenever they score, you probably don't need to open up the app, the live score app, to know that Tony is probably involved. And I think that is the key, because it's similar to like Carlton Morris when we got him, right, for the double. Like, over the 2 weeks, as you said, even appearance points is only 4, and he just need one attack return to have a double-digit return, right? And that is a really good return for anyone. So I think he's still a good buy for anyone who can actually afford him and have a free transfer to get him. Anytime between now and game week 26, because sometimes you just got to play the number game as well. Like, not only he double, but he doesn't blank in 26, he doesn't blank in 29. So basically, you've got a clean run. Obviously, some tougher fixtures, but as you can see that Tony, he get pens and free kicks and whatnot. Like, he score free kicks, he score lucky goals, he score pen. But I mean, you'd rather have someone who is almost guaranteed to score when the team score than teams who score a lot, but you have no idea who would score, or have someone like Darwin Núñez who like just hitting the post for fun. So I think personally, I'm not definitely buying him, but I will look at him come game week 25, because yes, Watkins have good features. But if he's confirmed playing in 29, I'm willing to take on, because his high ownership means that if he scores, he doesn't do anything. So I'm willing to bet against that if I want to gain ranks. I mean, it could go badly, but you just gotta make a decision whether you just want to keep Watkins and play the EO game and just ride along, or you punt with the sort of a more you get more features and more goal involvement from Tony.
Lucian?
Well, if the subject is still on Ivan Toney, then I think it's safe to say that he will have a steady stream. You know what? I'm just gonna use conventional terminology. He'll take on. I think the question is whether we will be happy with that output, because I am not a fan of depending on that sort of returns. Personally, anyway, because I mean, it's tough, isn't it? Like you're dependent on things that happen regardless of process. You do not want to. You do not want good things to happen to Brentford. You do not want bad things to happen to Brentford. But whether good or bad, you want Ivan Toney to score, right? You want him to do well. You want him to cheat. You want him to be at the end of throw-ins, free kicks, and it just does not end. I just wonder, like what is it like being a Brentford fan? Because I just do not see the logic in owning Brentford assets. Besides, just having somebody there, like just in case something good happens. And I mean, the question really is how you beat that output, right? It's the same question that I'm bringing up again when talking about KDB, right? Can you beat Kevin De Bruyne's output, right? Before we eventually sell him for Salah. So I do believe that Ivan Toney divides opinion a little bit, but we just have to accept that he is like the fourth best forward after whoever it is that we prefer. And that's okay. That's okay. But tactically I've given up trying to analyze Ivan Toney. I'm done. I'm completely done there. So I think that's I'll leave it on that note for now until we get to matchups.
All right, so let's just talk about then thoughts on Haaland and KDB. Despite KDB turned to the side, I'm still the same. I've already got Haaland in. I got him before this game because he was my Archer move, and I thought even 20, 30 minutes off the bench was enough for Haaland at home Burnley rather than Archer. Well, he didn't even start. Came on late, I think. Game and Alice. But it just feels like it's a luxury pick. Like if you've not got Salah at the moment, you've got money in the bank, then have at it. Why not? Salah's also just posted another Instagram story with him running or jogging on grass as well. But we still don't know if we've got the double in 25 and they blank in 26, they blank in 29. So if he's not got a double in 25, it's the same argument of why you could get Tony. You could get KDB and he's going to have two more fixtures. Well, or three fixtures because Salah's not going to play the next game, supposedly. So you could get three fixtures out of Kevin De Bruyne if he plays himself. Apparently he's not fully fit, but he's played another 70, 75 minutes before Haaland came on to replace him. But even though I'd be a bit wary about that double game week, you would probably get at least 90 minutes total from KDB and Haaland in the double game week. I know it's spread over 2 games, but if you get 90 minutes period from a Man City player, regardless of double game week or not, you're happy. So I think they'll both get more than 90 minutes total. It could be 60 and 60, could be 30 and 70, could be something like that. But either way, I think they're both fine. If you've got Salah and you don't get the double and you want to take advantage, that's something I could look into. I've held Salah this time. Despite my rank almost doubling this week, it's got nothing to do with Salah because the rest of my team's done nothing, and the Salah would have given me one extra midfielder, and I wouldn't have got any more points anyway. I might have got an extra 6 points or something if I did go to Kevin De Bruyne, but it would have been for a hit, so it wouldn't have worked out anyway. But other than that, I just don't feel in that quarterback role that I've mentioned before. I don't think he's worth 10.5 million, and I think I've already got Foden, Bernardo, who didn't play, and Haaland now. I just think Haaland's the easy one, and Kevin De Bruyne is more of a luxury. Just from that position, always remember FPL and the player are two different things. Like Kante in his prime at Chelsea was world class, but he was awful in FPL. It's just like that. I just don't feel like the full potential for Kevin De Bruyne to. We've said before, like we choose people like Salah because they're more like a striker fielder. Kevin De Bruyne is a midfielder who scores long range goals or gets assists. I don't want that. I want goals like a Son or a Salah playmaker. Ryan, thoughts on KDB Haaland?
So I'm like you. I've got Bernardo and Foden. And not Haaland yet, but I said last week that I'm keeping that spot open for him. Now I have a choice to make this week in whether I bring him in with him still possibly might also there's a chance of him getting only 30 minutes. We don't know. But I kind of have to probably make that decision in if I don't get him in this week because I rolled this week. Like I need to decide who else can I get in without wasting the transfer because transfers are precious between now till at least before we wildcard. I might still take the chance and get him in. And then I guess when we come to captaincy, we can discuss whether do we put the armband on him or even if we think he's gonna get like 35 minutes, 40 minutes, or do we risk it or do we put it on someone else? But yeah, I'll probably get Haaland. KDB, he's capable of the massive 20-pointer. He's also capable of the 6-pointer we just saw. So that's the luxury with KDB. It depends on your risk appetite and how much you're willing to take in. I personally, I need to kind of potentially save funds for Salah just in case because that double and the game against Burnley also is very tempting. If he is fit for Burnley, because if Salah is fit, he would naturally become the more favorite triple captaincy option as well. So kind of have to wait and see with that at the moment. So I won't be doing any sideway moves to like Bernardo to KDB even.
Jen?
Yeah, I'm the same. My thought hasn't changed. Last week I could easily get KDB because I sold Salah, so I could get pretty much anyone. I didn't. And I have a space for him as well if I want to. But Haaland is still my priority transfer, and so I think K7 asked in the chat as well. Like I think 95% I would get Haaland in. And then yeah, it's just a question of whether you captain him or not, depending on what Pep says and whatnot. So yeah, it just means that KDB at 10.6 it's just too expensive for the team and sort of breaking the structure of the team as well. I'd rather go Foden. A lot cheaper, obviously. Now the Pep has the full squad and we all know what that means, right? It's just full rotation. So I won't be surprised if KDB is benched again this game week, and then you never know which game he's going to start. And don't rely on the fact that KDB can come on for 20-25 minutes and he can still return a double-digit return. I think that's a very bold assumption to make because most of the games that he came on and make a difference was when City was either not winning or they really need something to happen to win, and so the game state is totally different. If by 60-65 minutes they 3-0 up, Pep might not bring KDB in at all, or he might only bring him in for last 10 minutes and he will just pass the ball around and keep possessions and don't have to do anything. So yeah, 1-pointer is very, very, very possible. Obviously, as Ryan said, double-digit hauls are possible as well. But then, yeah, you just gotta make that decision. That is that what you want. Whereas Haaland, when he's fully fit, I think he will just start every game. Bernardo Silva is someone else that I'm looking at, but obviously not now. The minutes risk is a little bit higher. So yeah, that's something that I'll have to think about. I was seriously looking at Walker as well before the Walkergate. So and yeah, their defense is just awful. They just always find a way to concede a goal every game. So yeah, so I might end up with only 2 City going into double game week.
Yep. Lucian?
Sorry about that. I was just checking how long I've owned Julian Alvarez for. Okay, anyway. Yes, City. I think the more the season goes on, the more we have to admit that we have to take an agnostic approach with Man City. Not in terms of tactics, but in terms of people who benefit from their tactics. Gabe is in the chat, and Gabe knows he can get the calls right, he can get the tactics right. The people who benefit from those tactics, yeah, he was banging on about Jeremy Doku, and I fully support that argument. But that's what City do, right? I think finally I do believe that I have accidentally stumbled upon City's secret and it is that they know how to exploit an opponent's weakness, but they have such a modular setup that you could have friggin' Gvardiol from left back venture all the way into left midfield and he will finish. So that is what I find Pep Guardiola is doing that the rest of the league cannot do. Like when other title challengers like Liverpool and Arsenal, when they change formations, they try to fit round pegs into square holes, right? Like you imagine Kai Havertz playing left wing, for example, right? If you know that Martinelli or Trossard plays left wing the best, when you try to bring Kai Havertz or somebody irrelevant, put them on left wing, they definitely underperform. But for City, for somehow, some way, they've got such flexible, adaptable, and awesome players in general that you could put Bernardo left back, right wing, left central midfield, and as long as they can establish a tactical advantage, they can put multiple players. Oh, my glasses fell off. Okay, they can put multiple players in that slot at any time they want, and one of them will deliver the goods. So, the unfortunate thing for FPL is that it is a nightmare, and I have learned that the hard way. The best idea really is to just own City players. Hold City players. Do not change them because, we've got to assume it's December and they will return points for you at some points. Just try your best not to predict where they'll come from because City are not a team that punishes weaknesses through one player, nor are they somebody that repeats a tactic so often that, you know who the talisman is. Instead, let's just embrace the weird things that City do, for better or worse. And just whatever City players we buy, hold on to them for like at least 5 weeks or so that you get like 2 returns out of those 5. I'm going to do a little bit of digging to see, I'll confirm later. I'll interject. Sorry, Rob. Interject later to see like how consistent returns have been for all City attackers minus KDB, of course. Just to give everyone a feel of how consistent City players are when they get 9 consistently.
Well, we're going to go into the match now anyway. So, but for the match itself, then, what are you thinking about Brentford?
Yeah. Well, the problem is that Man City don't really exhibit any weaknesses, do they? Beating like playing against Man City is one thing. Beating Man City requires not only for you to find where Man City are weak, you have to fit your plan A into exploiting that weakness. So this is something that teams have not done consistently for a very long time. And I think as of now, Brentford can only do what they do best. Long throw-ins, set pieces in some sense, but they've got to be really crafty. Because I don't think City have been losing that many aerial duels in terms of percentage. So at least that's off the back of my head. But more importantly is transition, right? The real question is, without Brian Mbeumo, who will be in charge of Brentford's transition? I mean, it's very easy to say that, Brentford is just going to have 3 at the back, 5 at the back, and they'll just lump one long ball forward to Tony and someone like Mopai or Wisa or, back from AFCON. They'll just pick it up and run. I like that. Whether it works, I don't know, right? It's the same question as, the previous matchup. Will Brentford get to actually have a chance of getting into Man City's faces as some of the top 6 teams have done this season? Or will Man City just cruise? Because I do believe that I have been listening consistently. Sorry guys, not to James and Suj, but to the Athletics Tactics podcast. That is the one podcast I will plug personally. And they did a stat attack where Man City's domination of possession has been absurd. Like I think they are on course for the first time this season for everyone to have an average pass percentage of 90%. They've come really close. They've been hitting 89% for the past few seasons, but they are finally on course to hit 90%. I just go like, what? You know, such domination is absurd. And that is probably the only consistent thing I would expect out of a Man City game. And that's where I believe our talking points should be.
Yeah, it's also what they do off the ball. That I think they do really well. For me, it's just same thing for City. I just see that Brentford did really well. They really rattled Spurs in the first half. Really got under their skin. But second half, Spurs came out and well. But I just think this is going to be a typical Man City dominating possession, Brentford relying on set piece and counter attacks. Just the key point for me though, City still lacks those clean sheets. Even really late against Burnley, they still conceded like right at the end. So that might give you some more feelings towards Tony, because despite not conceding many goals, they still concede like a goal right at the end. And it is at Brentford. I think I said Burnley for some. But yeah, every time I look at City, every match just feels like it's going to be this way. Unless they're against like Liverpool or maybe Arsenal, every team just expects City to dominate. And I said before, Brentford are like the best set piece takers, I think in Europe at one point. That good. So that's all I'm expecting. Just going to be Brentford sat back under the passing of City, getting a goal. That's it for me. Again.
Yeah, I agree with all you've said. I just don't expect a lot of goals from City. Like City will just like complete domination, but in terms of like they will probably just like get a 2-0 and cruise through to the end, and then whether Tony and Brentford will snatch one goal in the end to have like a 2-1 or not, depends on how focused they are. Because I think this morning, as soon as Rodri was taken off, they conceded. Just like Liverpool, as soon as Bradley was taken off and Trent came on, they conceded straight away. It's just like that. It's just so cliche, right? So yeah, so I either a 2-0 or 2-1 for me. I don't expect a lot of goals from City, but I still think Haaland will play a lot more minutes. Pep did make a comment that he was in a different situation to KDB in terms of like where he was fitness wise, and so he would be more likely to start than KDB would, in my opinion. I mean, he did look a bit rusty when he came on. But Haaland is just Haaland. Like he got so many big chances and he missed so many big chances before the injuries anyway. Like the highest XG of everyone still, even without playing so many fewer games. And I think a delta of minus many. I can't remember exactly how many. So it's just like Haaland when he plays, he will probably score. So yeah, even if just 2 goals, I expect Haaland to be involved, and so therefore I think if your plan is to get Haaland in, I think you should just do it. And if he's benched, then just gotta take that on the chin and say, well, I just got Haaland in, and that's done, so I can move on with the plan rather than doubting, especially those with Alvarez, right? If you've sold Alvarez already losing, and it was a unlucky outcome in terms of the points swing, but at least you've done it. Like those who have Alvarez now will have to decide, like, oh, he just come off of a brace. How can I sell him for Haaland? And then you find out that he's gonna be on the bench in the next game. It's like, oh well, wish I did that. So I think just do it and get on with it.
Ryan?
Well, I hope Bernardo starts. as Lucian's been entering all the City returns, he mentioned Bernardo 3 returns in 8, and those 3 returns came from the last 3 away games he played. So just gotta hope he can play in this one as well. Away game, holds possession, so pretty tidy, nifty player, can play in different spots as well along that City attack, and sometimes even plays fullback. So if Kyle Walker, decides to take another day off, maybe Bernardo is also deployed there. You never know. But yeah, agree with Tien. Probably a very low scoring game. 2-0 maybe, 2-1, something like that.
I think Bernardo will be back. I think it was just an easy rest against an Burnley side. Not trying to be mean to Burnley, but if there's a sort of like a 90-minute man who Pep really relies on for big games, Bernardo Silva, I think you can give him a little rest against Burnley. Ryan, quickly, Liverpool, Arsenal, Liverpool. Obviously, it's a big game, football, but also in terms of FPL. Could be doubling, could play into it. Too many coulds and maybe. Looking at this one, players to look at. Again, I'm still, unless you're going to free hit, if you don't have any Chelsea or Spurs, then you're fine. You can load up on Liverpool. But if they will blank in 20, I'm still not going to load up too much. If you don't have any Liverpool, for some reason you don't have any Liverpool, Spurs, or Chelsea, you don't, and maybe that's something you can look at in 25 if you don't have any Liverpool or City. I just don't. For me, I've just got Salah. I'm just holding him. It's a real shame because if he wasn't injured, he would have been back. Would have been a genius move. Held him. Hopefully, he should be back by. Could be tempted by Diogo Jota. Scored again, but when Salah is back, we're in the same situation. 4 players fitting into positions. I think if you load up too much on Liverpool and they don't double, you're going to force yourself into. Arsenal, I'm just still not sold on them. Just not. Like, I know Saka is destroyed my rank again. He's gone. Oh, but I'm just not sold on Arsenal. I've got Gabriel and I'm fine with it. If Arsenal do play in 29, I know it's against Chelsea, but a game's a game. Then I could potentially, after the double game week, could potentially go from like Bernardo to an Arsenal midfielder, or bring in Gabriel Jesus, something like that. But I'm not sold on Arsenal. Still not. FPL point of view, I just don't feel they're an explosive team that value. So yeah, that's it for Ryan. Thoughts on Liverpool, Arsenal play?
So I have Trent, and I must be honest that I am a bit concerned with the double coming up for Liverpool and a cup final after that, just a few days. So the performances that Bradley has been putting up, I would not be shocked if Trent is benched for the Luton game. So that is one thing to kind of keep in mind. Apart from that, it's most likely going to be I go get Jota in 24. But I might wait to see what's the status with Salah at that point, whether he's fit or not. If he's fit, then rises the question, how the hell do I finance having Salah, having Trent, having Haaland all in the same squad? It's not very easy. So I might have to sacrifice someone, and this is where it comes to Saka potentially being the one who makes way, or even we just spoke about Watkins. If he's not having a game in 29, potentially him. One of the two have to potentially make way for me to be able to finance Salah. Now, I know Salah has a blank in 26, but those 3 games are too good enough. And even though they have a final 3 days or something after, I still think Salah is one of those players that Klopp tends to play as much as he can. And maybe he'll get about, in the second double, might get a bit less minutes than 90. But yeah. So everything is completely up in the air in terms of which Liverpool player I go for. and I'll make that decision probably in game week 24.
Ken?
Yeah, so I have TAA and Jota. So I bought Jota in last game week, or this game week. It hasn't finished, right? So I think I'm in a good position if they have a double in 25. And if that's the case, I might look to add a third as well in 24 or 25, which might be Darwin for a very short-term punt. And then I'll sell one or two of them in game week 26. So I think I talk about the balance between long-term planning and short-term gains, and that's the balance that you can we always try to achieve. For me, Salah, if he's back fit before game week 25, then I might have a problem because I can't I don't have an easy way to get him back in without breaking the team and taking hits. So yeah, it's a risk that I took, and we'll see what happens. The good news is you don't have to buy any Liverpool player for this game week because of this fixture. So you can wait and see, and yeah, definitely by the deadline or just after the deadline, the double game week news will definitely be confirmed one way or another. In which case, you might get away with not having any Liverpool players, for example, because they blank. And if they don't double. Yeah, Arsenal, I have the same feeling as you. I've been tripling up on them, and it's been quite disappointing. I mean, I know this game week, I got a point from Jesus, but then it was basically cancelled out by Saka. Odegaard has been so disappointing. So I'm selling them regardless of whether they have a game in 29 or not. So Jesus will make way for Haaland. That's pretty much 95% confirmed now. Whether or not I sell Odegaard as well this game week is depends on whether I have someone I really like, because I have two free transfers, so I can potentially just make one and roll, or I can make two. In which case, both Jesus and Odegaard will go. Saliba is my third Arsenal player. I think he will just stay there, being bench, or if they don't play in 29, then he's an easy keep. I really hope they blind though, because that'll make my life a lot easier, and that'll create a lot more chaos, which I like.
Lucian?
I mean, I said last week that Liverpool are a mess. They still are a mess. Was it FPL Martin that said right? Only Darwin can get an attacking return and still end up on 2 points. I mean, I empathize. I used to own Darwin. I had him come off the bench and get 3 points off an assist and a yellow card. I know. So how long will the good times roll, right? How long will the good times roll? I think for me, Bradley is the real highlight of this whole ordeal. I think Trent can easily fit in the midfield. He's much better than McAllister at the moment.
Won't though.
Yeah. But I think my idea of an ideal Liverpool lineup right now is really heartening to see Soboslai come back into the side. I think that has been really, really missed for Liverpool. I think Soboslai will continue to influence that right side of the pitch, and I think whoever that's sitting on Diogo Jota right now is going to be laughing to the bank, because I think Soboslai is going to energize that right side so much better than anyone else that Liverpool can offer. That, yeah, I'm going to predict there's going to be some stability, and if not for the blanks, yeah, I'd happily triple Liverpool. I've got Trent. I'm going to easily get Salah. So yeah, I'm just waiting to see who I want as my third Liverpool after the blank. That's my thought process at the moment. Anyway. Yeah, and I guess Chelsea's a sell. It goes without saying.
I called Bradley out last week because I said he was played for my team Bolton last year. He was player's player and overall player of the season. Same as Trafford as well. Did really, really well. And they were every game they had like two players having to mark him, and he's a right back. And he showed it yesterday. Goal, and 2 assists. Everything he touched turned to goal, but Trent won't go straight into midfield for Mac. Mac will still stay there and Trent will go back in for Bradley. Bradley, sadly, despite Bradley could have what they got, the Northern Irish Cafu, right? He was doing so well, but no matter what, he won't hold that place. But who knows? Klopp might say it's my last season and I'm just going to give him a run and stuff it. I don't need to worry about long-term things. Bradley's earned his space, and if McAllister's not happy about it, that's the next manager's problem to deal with, right? So there could be that. Come back to you then, Lucy. Talk briefly then about the match itself. What do you think about
Well, this is top 6 matchup, right? Arsenal Liverpool, right? So, I mean, really, tactics out the window. What's left? What is left? I mean, we've. How many times do I need to bang on this script? I'm starting to get sick of it. Honestly, guys, I think right now, the dilemma is simple. Do you believe that one side will establish superiority of tactics, or is it going to be playground football? The way both teams are playing at the moment, of course, there's an inclination to believe that playground football is going to dominate because of how emotional the news broke out about Liverpool and how Arsenal can look good without being convincingly good. So I think both teams right now are running on paper over the cracks, and we are probably going to see an emotional game where there are lots of red cards. But that is my opinion. I think everyone is happy to evaluate how matchups go because, well, I think Bradley officially gets his first test here. Um, of course, this is against Arsenal's left, so I think that's going to be worth talking about. Everyone's going to be quite excited to talk about that. For me, it's still a conversation around Bukayo Saka because I think it's the very first time in a very long while Bukayo Saka actually beat a man and scored. That's not happened for a while, so that might be ominous signs for us, at least in terms of Saka non-owners. So I'll leave it there.
I'm still thinking that's more turn and not saving it as well than that scuffy right-footed shot from Saka. But I have the same notes as you. It's a typical tight top of the table ish affair where both teams want to win, but they absolutely do not want to lose because they can make points up elsewhere. But if they lose, they've got 0 and they've gifted 3 points to their rival. So it's just going to be one of those. Both are strong in attack to an extent. Both can concede goals, but I just see a low scoring goal draw. Is what I see. I think it's too soon for Salah. That might have had a bigger say. But it's just going to be one of those games where it'll be tense to watch, but I don't think it's going to be some end-to-end thriller. I'm just going to... Ryan?
Well, I think with Saka, the last game, I saw the highlights again, and he looked on it from what I saw compared to like the previous game. Apart from that, from an FPL point of view, I will be benching Gabriel again, just like I did in the reverse fixture. And if he scores another headed goal, I'll just cry. I can't. So I just hope he doesn't do that. But yeah, that's basically it. Think Liverpool will win this game. It will be a very important game for Arsenal because if Liverpool do win, they go 8 points clear. Kind of effectively almost like knocks Arsenal out of the title charge. But Liverpool's attack is just so good that I think Arsenal might have a tough day.
Yep. Jen?
Don't you guys think that both Trent and Robertson will go straight back in?
Robertson
Because
already is, I think.
they both came on. No, they both came on as a sub this morning. So I think they both come back in starting.
I still feel Connor
Sorry?
Bradley. I don't know. I think he might still start because I can't see why Klopp would drop him after such a performance. It's just so hard to like drop a player who's done so well in the game, and that is a big game as well. But I won't be surprised if Trent then plays in midfield in that specific situation.
Yeah, it could be, but yeah, I guess it's a big game, right? It's a big game, like Klopp tend to stick with like a sort of trusted and try and tested formula, right? So Bradley has been, doing really well, but he's still a young player, and Trent has been, a very influential player for that team. So I think he comes back in for Bradley, sadly. But yeah, I think Liverpool won't, they're not going to have that sort of domination and pressing game like they had with Chelsea, especially away from home against Arsenal, which would be much stronger defensively. So I expect a much tighter game, and I'm seriously considering benching Jota as well. I'm benching Saliba obviously, but I think I might bench Jota as well, because Palmer against Wolves, I have to play him, right? So yeah, it's a tough decision, but I think it's going to be a low scoring game, maybe 1-1 like you said.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it always comes down to team, right? And benching headaches are good, but if you've got Palmer against Wolves compared to Liverpool away at Arsenal in a game that you feel is going to be low scoring, then that's part of being an FPL manager, right? It's making the right benchings and the right calls. So we'll just quickly finish with captains. Simple one for me, because 5. Haaland, if you're feeling risky, that you think he's going to start, because remember they play like last, or we shouldn't get information. Well, let's put it, the general mass won't get information about Man City before deadline, most likely. It might be a little bit too soon. I just think Watkins. I know Watkins didn't do a lot in the reverse fixture, but the last time Newcastle battered Villa, Villa won the next game 4-0. Now I know there's no real comparison or connection to that, but I just feel like they're a team that respond well. They still want to push for top 4, and it's Sheffield United. Despite Wilder coming in and the sort of do better, they conceded 3 against Palace, and Watkins for captaincy isn't the worst if you don't think Haaland start. But Haaland is just a simple one that if you think he's going to start, stick to captaincy back to auto captain basically. Outside punt would be Solanke because he's got Forest at home. I just don't trust Bournemouth enough with the captaincy still. I think Solanke's been fantastic for me and for all the other FPL managers that have him. And he's great value, but I want to trust my captain. And I don't have that trust, not necessarily in him, but in Bournemouth against Nottingham Forest. I have trust in Villa against Sheffield, because captaincy, it's not always about the player. It's also about who's fit and what the team is and what you think the matchup's going to be. And I see Villa against Sheffield United as a great fixture more than Man City, because we all think City are going to win, but we think it's going to be a bit low scoring. 2-0. Haaland might score both goals if he plays, right? True. But I just think Villa is the team that won't stop when they go ahead. City are. If City are 2-0 up, I'm turning it off because they're just going to pass it around the back for 100,000 pounds. But if Villa go 2 or 3 goals up, they want 4. They'll go for 5. They won't sit back and pass it around the back. That's something I like to see. But I'm not fully decided yet. I want to see more information about Haaland maybe being fit. Watkins just has personally lost the trust because form for Villa and himself has been a little dry. But Haaland's back after like 2 months out. We think it's going to be low scoring. Brentford on, a pushover side. And especially because he's a physical striker and they've got some physical defenders for Brentford. I don't think they're my top 3. But Watkins and Haaland is really close. Haaland is more about FOMO. But the fact that his ownership is a lot lower now, like I posted, like it's his biggest differential has ever been. I think he's like between 30 and 35% effective ownership in my rank of between 300 and 500k. Watkins is a lot higher. So actually, Watkins is the more effective ownership safety pick. But every time I see one of my players against Luton, Burnley, Sheffield United, Nottingham Forest. I have to look at them. Ryan, who are you thinking for captain?
If I buy Haaland, probably going to put it on him. But for the moment, bus team captain is on Palmer against Wolves. I do prefer to ideally captain someone who takes pens. So that would be the reason why. Watkins, it's an away fixture, so not as convinced with Villa's away form. But he still will score goal. But yeah, I've been burnt after giving him the armband before, so I can't trust Palmer more.
Ken?
Yeah, similar. Probably Haaland. Yeah, I fully expect Haaland's EO to be over 100%. So I think your chance of getting the 30% EO of Haaland is gone. So this game week it'll be back up. It won't be super high, but it will probably be just over 100%, I think. Yeah, same feeling about Watkins and Solanke. But yeah, Palmer is a good shout as well. I mean, I think Lucien did mention last week that Palmer will struggle against stronger teams, but he will be like sort of bullying the weaker team, especially at home as well, and he's on pen. So um, um, yeah, so that's also a shout. But I think unless I hear like sort of strong indication that Haaland will be benched again, I think it'll probably be on him as a safety net. I think Rob, you said about trust. I think that's very important. Like it's got to be someone that he can trust, even though the fixture is not as good. But it's always sort of like a safety net to go to someone that he can trust.
Finally, Lucian, captaincy.
I am okay with Haaland coming on for a cameo. I will look out for news, of course, but yeah, I'm at this stage, the way City have managed his recovery, I am very happy for Haaland to come back on and do well. Yeah, no issue captaining him. Actually, my bus captain is actually on KDB. I don't see a particular reason he will be rested this soon. I do think he will eventually be rested, but right now, yeah, I think he'll be fine for now. But yes, eventually he will get rested, and that's when I'll sell him for Mo Salah.
So, final question and predictions, and if we're leaning towards Haaland captaincy, Haaland starting against Brentford, yes or no, Ryan?
Yes.
Jen?
95% yes.
Lucian?
Yes, of course.
Do you think he's straight back in, starting 11? I think it comes down to trust. And look, when are we going to get a chance to captain Haaland where he's under? He might not be, because when's the deadline for our time? Saturday, like 7 o'clock. Yeah, 7 o'clock on Saturday. I think it's like 9 o'clock your time or 10 o'clock in Australia. So we've got 2 days to try and push off people buying Haaland so he goes over 100% effective ownership, right? But he probably will be. Could actually get Haaland captain.
It's already the top transfer in by far, by a big margin. So yeah, no luck there.
All right, well, thanks for joining us, guys. Maybe leave a like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed it. Long discussion today about enjoy it. Like and subscribe, and good luck for the next game week and for the final couple of games this game week. Thanks. See you.